have a mansion. In the post-apocalyptic world by Morningstar LL. Chapter 91, The Uncanny Valley. Uncanny Valley was a theory introduced by Ernst Jentsch from 1906 in his work Zur Psychologie des Unheimlichen. His perspective was cited by Sigmund Freud's essay The Uncanny, which became a famous theory. Irritated, Jiang Chen quickly flipped through the theory, as he tried to find a keyword among the lines of words. Because of our fear of death and diseases, empathy mechanism disorder, inability to sympathize with the robots. Jiang Chen murmured under his breath as his hands holding the book lightly trembled. What is this feeling? He suppressed the irritation in his mind as Jiang Chen searched for the answers among the old robot magazines. Wanghai 6th Senior High School had a massive library as countless numbers of books were arranged in the grand hall on the first floor even though not a lot of students visited the floor where they stored the books. All books could be downloaded from the school's internet, and all the information could be found in the school terminal. Rather than a physical copy of information, the books were more of a display. The only city where libraries would store academic journals in print, those that were considered to be information rather than a mere display. The world was advancing and as a result, print reading had already begun to become extinct from people's life. Occasionally, there would be people who were fond of printed books like Yaotingting, but they were rarer than endangered animals. Just like the goddess in Jiang Chen's heart Yaotingting. To commemorate the past era however, libraries still tend to store some of the older journals and magazines. At the same time, Jiang Chen always felt that print would bring him more insight. Despite asking the artificial intelligence, the school wizard, the talkative entity would be unable to provide enlightenment that could give him a sudden gush of comprehension. Instead, it would just consistently lead him to mental problems like stress and fatigue. Or perhaps deception. Regardless how much he searched, he couldn't find the answer he wanted. It felt like the truth was concealed as the smart search wizard surprisingly malfunctioned after listening to his description. All search results led problems to a more complicated direction. So when class ended, he came to the library full of books. There was no one here to mislead him, and instinct told him that the answers he's searching for could be found from one of these shelves. He wanted to know where the strange feeling was coming from. He took the book Robot Novel 21st volume at the Dissension Between Human and Robot from the shelves with rosewood scent. Based on the publication date of 2021, it was an old history book. Of course, the printing was new. The higher the human-shaped android or robot resembled a human, the better the impression human would have. The positive impression would considerably increase until it reaches a critical point, in which the more it resembled a human, the more frightening it would become until it reached the bottom of the valley. Perhaps a negligible move would appear stiff and scary. So this is how it is. In the case of the cleaning robot that I met this morning, through eye contact, it triggered the uncanny valley effect. Jiang Chen frowned as he continued to think. The feeling of being oppressed became stronger, and it felt like cotton was stuck in his throat. It's as though he had forgotten about something. But what did he forget exactly? Suddenly, Jiang Chen subconsciously looked at the stairs leading to the second floor. At the same time, Jiang Chen? The gentle and soft voice lightly caressed his ears. When he turned around in surprise, he saw Yaotingting standing on the other side of the shelves. Right, I still need to invite her to the movies. Damn it, why am I feeling bothered with these boring thoughts and almost forgot the important thing? Jiang Chen cursed in his mind. With a crimson face, he stared at the princess-like girl but couldn't utter a single word. Yaotingting stood there serenely as if she was waiting for something. Jiang Chen was unable to say a word, his mouth was left half open. But the words, "Do you have time tomorrow?" was stuck in his throat. Her beautiful face suddenly blossomed in a smile, the phoenix-like eyes that could cause anyone's heart to miss a beat. "Do you want to come over to my place?" Jiang Chen was stunned. "She's inviting me? To her place? But why?" Yaotingting didn't give him time to think as she had already turned around. Jiang Chen pondered for a moment before he bit his lips and worked out the courage to follow her. The magazine, however, was left on the table. Seeing the two left, the librarian, who was manning the front desk without any expression, quietly walked to where Jiang Chen had been sitting. She stared at the old magazine for a while, then she picked it up quietly. However, she didn't put it back on the shelf. Instead, she ripped it in half and threw it in the garbage. "Wait, why are you inviting me to your place?" Jiang Chen rushed out of the library and walked behind Yaotingting. He vacillated before asking the question. Yaotingting stopped abruptly, white dress fluttering gently in the breeze. Under the radiance of the dusk, the lily bloomed, the picture was so serene. Jiang Chen was drawn to that scene. The goddess, who was always in his mind, was nibbling her lower lips. She had a shy smile as she tried to look away, and her mouth was ajar. "Because I want to get to know you." "Know me?" Was that a confession? Jiang Chen immediately turned red. His lips opened and closed stiffly but failed to utter a word. His heart pounded as if it was about to jump out of his chest. She likes me too. His brain was currently filled with confounding happiness, and he lost any ability to think. He only has his sight on the goddess who always occupied his dreams. Yao Tingting smiled as she walked to the direction of the gate. Jiang Chen gulped as he rigidly followed her. At that moment, however, his eyes inadvertently caught a strange sight. The peculiar sense of urgency crept into his mind. Hollow eyes were watching him. There is a cleaning robot here too? That made sense since those things should be everywhere. Jiang Chen mulled it over, then threw the unnatural feelings away into the back of his mind. The robot seemed to have lost interest in him as it was already staring in another direction. The door opened. Yao Tingting led Jiang Chen to her rented apartment. It was a simple one living room, one bedroom structure, as it was easy to rent this type of apartment around the school. It was also not expensive. It looked like Yao Tingting was just like him. Both of them were from Wanghai City. The middle of the room smelled of faint jasmine. The clean and organized light, flaxen-colored wallpaper covered every walls in the living room. There were a simple coffee table, tablecloth, and a light beige sofa. Feel free to sit. Do you want a glass of water? Yao Tingting turned around as she beamed at Jiang Chen. Okay. Jiang Chen nodded nervously and sat on the sofa. Looking at the figure of Yao Tingting standing beside the cupboard, he couldn't help but chuckle as he smelled the scent belonging to the goddess. Although he still felt something was unusual, he was feeling so happy that it had ceased to matter. As though being forcibly stuffed full, the sense of being lost to reality disappeared unconsciously. It was not long before Yao Tingting returned to the living room with 2 glasses of water. She smiled at Jiang Chen and placed a glass of water in front of him. Here you go. Oh, thank you. As though trying to hide his embarrassment, Jiang Chen quickly took a sip of the cold water. Yao Tingting sat beside him and looked at the side of his profile while smiling. Is there something on my face? No. Yao Tingting shook her head, still wearing a bright smile. Her luscious hair that was smooth as fine willow branches swayed gently. Jiang Chen was out of words again. He averted his gaze at the glass as he stared blankly at his reflection of the water. I want to get to know you. Can you talk to me? As though center of his heart was being hammered, Jiang Chen's heart trembled at that very moment. Why do you want to learn about me? Jiang Chen's throat moved as he scrambled to find words. The answer came out frank. Because I like you. Yao Tingting gazed into Jiang Chen's eyes with the same bright smile. An uncomfortable feeling bloomed, a feeling that something was not right. The confusion, however, was suddenly replaced by extreme euphoria. Dopamine could really make people lose their mind. I like you too. Jiang Chen finally had the courage to express his month's worth of affection to her. I know. Yao Tingting grinned at his bold effort. I've been watching you for a long time. I know. I've been watching you for a long time. Like a spell, these 2 confessions happily circled around his mind. Would you tell me your story? Like a curious girlfriend, Yao Tingting gazed at Jiang Chen's eyes as her long eyelashes flickered. I really don't have a lot of stories to tell. Jiang Chen, somewhat embarrassed, looked away. However, Yao Tingting relentlessly moved closer. You can tell me anything. Okay. Jiang Chen opened his mouth reluctantly. Contrary to his expectation, he thought Yao Tingting wasn't the type to enjoy conversation as she usually immersed herself in her books, but she's now giving off the impression that she was verbose. They chatted about the past of their younger selves, glimpses of memory that seemed to be covered in a white fog. Although they didn't usually have too many interactions, and it has always been Jiang Chen who secretly watched her, the 2 of them enjoyed their time immensely. Yao Tingting made him feel as though they had been acquainted for a long time. The night was getting late and outside was completely dark. Why don't I treat you to dinner? Yao Tingting smiled. Jiang Chen nodded unexpectedly. The dinner passed by in a relaxed atmosphere. Fried eggs with tomatoes, pork stir-fry with green peppers, seaweed and egg soup. These were all homemade dishes. Yao Tingting was the type who was great at housekeeping, which came as a surprise to him. The very idea made his heart throb a little faster. At his age, falling in love meant eternity. The food was exquisite. He secretly observed Yao Tingting sitting across the table. Her tiny mouth chewed delicately. She seemed to love tomatoes? Does she like to eat sour food, and green pepper? But why is she only eating these 2 things? Jiang Chen observed carefully, and he secretly memorized the flavors she liked. She said that she likes me, so she's now my girlfriend? But it was not official yet. Is she waiting for me to bring it up? When he thought about this, he gulped and looked away awkwardly. The holographic screen was playing the popular intro of Dust Kingdom. The clock struck 8. Does it taste good? Yao Tingting smiled at Jiang Chen. Oh, yes. Jiang Chen laughed nervously as he focused on his rice to hide his embarrassed expression. I heard there are ghosts in the school library. Have you seen them? Ghost? That's not true, that's not real science. Jiang Chen had peculiar expression. Are you pleased? However, the unbecoming subsequent sentence diverged from the topic of conversation. Pleased? Jiang Chen seemed lost, but then suddenly, as if he had just realized something, he looked away and shyly scratched his slightly red ear. He stiffly nodded, of course. For a teenager in puberty, there was nothing more joyful than being invited to the house of the girl of his dreams. Don't eat so fast. Here, drink some water. Yaotingting smilingly handed over the glass. It was the same glass that Jiang Chen had used. With a blushing face, he took the glass as he tried to mask the awkward silence by drinking the water. Didn't you say there's soup? Why is it water? The screen showed Dust Kingdom's plot. Klein fell down in the pool of blood and stopped breathing. It was rather an unexpected ending. It felt rushed, as if there was a lot of build-up, but nothing was explained before the show had ended. After the outro, there was the end written in blood. A smile formed on Yaotingting's angelic and serene face while watching Jiang Chen, who was drowsily lying on the dinner table. The smile was odd, hollow. So tired, I just want to sleep. Through his droopy eyes and hazy vision, he faintly caught a glimpse of white dress dropping on the ground. The white figure took quiet steps towards him. The back of his head was surrounded by something soft. His consciousness plummeted in a bottomless abyss. Chapter 92, Who is the Ghost? As usual, Jiang Chen lied on the table, watching similar scenes repeated itself. No, if there's something that changed, it's probably because of her. He looked at the girl sitting under the window who was beaming in his direction at that moment. Speaking of which, after they confirmed their feelings for each other last night, they were now together. Of course, he was still not used to the feeling of extreme happiness. He shyly hid his face in his sleeves as he suddenly realized that they seemed to have done something unbelievable yesterday. They did it? They did it. Yo, do you have something good you want to share with me? Xiaoping said as he poked Jiang Chen's back with a leer. Go away. Jiang Chen responded distractedly as he glanced at the rouge before lying on the table again. If he allowed this guy to find out, he's afraid that the entire class would also find out. He vowed to defend this secret to his death to protect the goddess name. Oh, yeah, why do we have class today? Jiang Chen was confused. Alliance Day should be a legal holiday. Don't you know? The news said yesterday that the holiday is temporarily cancelled. The school posted on the terminal the news about class resuming today. Xiaoping gave the same bewildered look as Jiang Chen. You can cancel holidays? Jiang Chen was stunned once again. Truth be told, he did come to school with Yaotingting today. When he left, he forgot about the holiday but didn't remember receiving any messages. Jiang Chen took out the terminal and launched the holographic screen. Sure enough, there was a temporary notice symbol in the right corner. It did seem like I forgot. Jiang Chen then remembered the craziness that happened last night and couldn't help but blush as he secretly took a peek at Yaotingting's direction. Then, he put the terminal away before lying on the table again. The charming girl under the window was engrossed in the terminal. Her index finger was tapping on the screen, flipping the pages on the electronic book. Who cares? It's okay if it's not a holiday. Since we are already going out, it doesn't matter if we can't go to the movies. He mumbled to himself, and just like his usual habit, he leaned against his arm and began napping. Startled, Jiang Chen woke up. Where did everyone go? Oh, the third period in the afternoon is physical education. The activity today is swimming and I have to change in advance. Xiaoping, that rascal, didn't even wake me up, he ridiculed Xiaoping in his mind as he rubbed his still dry eyes. He pressed against the table to stand up and headed to the door. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but imagine Yaotingting in a swimsuit. As he thought about this, his face began to suffuse with heat again. He forced out a laugh as he touched his nose, and shook his head to rid himself of the unhealthy vision. The gym was located south of the library. It was the biggest building outside of the main academic building. The digital gymnasium included basketball court, soccer field, swimming pool, and track, together with the combination of practical and virtual teaching. Simply put, the place was humongous. Jiang Chen checked his watch on his way to the gym. Since it was already 5 minutes into the lecture, and he was already late and was too lazy to run, he simply slowed down his pace. The campus was empty at this time, but it certainly did make sense. After all, class was still ongoing, and that made him the odd one for wandering outside the classroom at this time. When he passed by the library, he suddenly halted. Why did Yaotingting mention that there was a ghost in the library? For some reason, Jiang Chen didn't feel scared. He had the urge to go ahead and explore instead. He gulped as he subconsciously moved one step to that direction. Forget it, maybe I'll come back after school, Jiang Chen thought in his mind, troubled. Just as he was about to retract his step, all of a sudden, a deafening shout thundered in his ears and made him jump up. You! What are you doing? Fu*k, I am only late. Just as when Jiang Chen was about to open his mouth to explain, the cleaning robot, who was sweeping the ground quietly, suddenly accelerated and collided into the guard. Fu asterisco kappa. The guard fell down because of the collision with the robot, and he scrambled to get up. When Jiang Chen met a pair of ferocious eyes, he felt an irrational fear. The only thing left in his mind was to flee. He didn't have time to think as he scampered towards the direction of the library. He dashed to the door towards the direction of the stair and sprinted to the second floor and ran to the other end of the hallway, panting heavily. Through the second floor of the library was a shortcut to the gym. Jiang Chen could also use the terrain there to his advantage, get rid of the vicious guard. In an open space, he certainly didn't have the confidence to outrun adults who had been trained. Fu *k, if I got caught, I'll probably be lectured. When did the guard start doing the job of the school director? This is ridiculous. It was rumored that the guard in the front gate had a bad-tempered. Even though Jiang Chen had a faint feeling that even if he did anger him, he wouldn't beat him up, he was irrationally frightened nonetheless. Thus, he didn't think before running away. Woo, whatever, it's better not to be caught or else I would have to go to the office and explain. Jiang Chen was about to go down from the other end of the library when he found an opened activity room. The door wasn't locked. Normally, these barely used activity rooms would be locked. Only when the directors came to audit would the school create some odd temporary clubs to deal with the inspection. However, the door of this activity room was actually open. Jiang Chen stood in front of the door and for some reason felt a strong déjà vu. I haven't been here before, but this place feels important. And I think I have seen this place somewhere else. The sudden deafening roar of the guard echoed down the hallway and almost scared him to death. Fu *k, don't shout in the library. There was not enough time as Jiang Chen hid into the activity room, closed the door and locked it up. He leaned his body against the wall as held his breath, while listening quietly to the movements outside the door. The footsteps did not come, surrounded by frightening silence as though the roar had never happened in the first place. In the silence, Jiang Chen heard his own rapid heartbeat. He let out a breath slowly as he moved away unhurriedly from the door and took out the terminal from his pocket. It's already this time. Looking at the distinct number in the holographic screen, Jiang Chen gave a wry smile. Physics class was about to end. There was still no noise from outside the door, but Jiang Chen couldn't muster enough courage to step outside. After debating for a while, he left the door reluctantly. He was still a little scared, however, there's no use in going now since class was ending soon. A flat air conditioner hung in the corner of room, which was probably the most expensive device in the entire room. The interior looked very spacious with only a table and a chair. With the window sealed and being in the midst of summer, the temperature was tolerable outside the room, but felt like a furnace inside. Jiang Chen walked to the edge of the window and pressed the button to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Is it broken? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows as he surveyed the thick layer of dust on the windowsill. It seemed like there hadn't been anyone here in a while, and there wasn't any sign of wind. He then gave up on opening the window and walked in front of the desk as he picked up a USB-shaped device at the corner of the table. Activity room management access right seems to be used like this? Jiang Chen inserted the USB into the terminal and selected to open the air conditioner. All equipment in the school could be operated through the terminal, but it required an access right prior to using it. The access right could be granted through wireless connection, but some special room must be accessed through a physical device. For example, the electronic key at the corner of the table, when connected to the terminal, the user's ID would be registered on the whitelist, and then the user would be able to turn on the air conditioner through the terminal. Fortunately, the air conditioner was functional. A gust of cool air blasted through as Jiang Chen let out a pleasant sigh. I'll wait until the class is over before leaving. That guard would probably be gone by then. The only thing that bothered him was that he remembered that the guard should have access to all rooms. Maybe he was too lazy to look for me by searching every room. Which Dumba guess would be that bored. Since he already decided to skip class, there was nothing to do outside, so he pulled out the chair under the table and sat on top as enjoyed the refreshing cold air. It's too hot outside, I really don't want to go out. Jiang Chen, who was bored out of his mind sitting on the bench, suddenly realized something was off. He abruptly stood up and patted his behind. No dust. Jiang Chen was stupefied, then he touched the table. There was also no dust. This doesn't make sense. Has anyone been here lately? When he thought about it, he had a strange desire to explore since he had nothing better to do. He then opened the terminal and used access right to view the user record. User in the past 3 months. Total result, 1 person. ID, Jiang Chen. I've been the only person here for the past 3 months, troubled by the words on the screen. He then extended the search to 1 year. Same result. No one had used the activity room even when there was a celebration. Jiang Chen tried to search for the memory in his head as he recalled the school's annual celebration in first semester of grade 10. The directors at that time visited the school, and Wanghai 6th High School did create some club events. I remember that they used the activity rooms in the library. I also seem to have been an actor. Jiang Chen could not think of an answer as his finger continued to scroll through the screen. This time he extended the search criterion to 55 years, which was the maximum searchable time query. However, user in the past 55 years. Total result, 1 person. ID, Jiang Chen. Translator's thoughts. _min_. With regards to all the confusions happening in the recent chapters, I pushed the release schedule ahead. Enjoy. Chapitre 93, Colonel's Diary. October 2, 2172, Sunny. Truth to be told, this planet is no longer suitable for human habitation, starting from the moment the Russian committed atrocities in Paris. These trivial complaints have no meaning coming from a man of my status. Being able to complain, after all, is a good thing since those 21 people in battalion next door couldn't even complain anymore. I remember Daniel, a young man who always likes to aim at people's nuts and blew up his own guns. His DNA can't even be found anymore in the aftermath of the war in Berlin. That damn guy, you still owe me a drink, damn it. Running into enemies, taking cover, shooting, calling for an airstrike, advancing continuously, and praying to the priest. Every day is like a living hell. Despite having air advantage, the CCCP firepower was too fierce. When they finally tore their hypocritical facade and revealed their true nature, they started using nuclear weapons. Good asterisken. Now, everyone's life has been depreciated to $10. Perhaps even less. That's all for today. We'll push towards Frankfurt tomorrow. It was rumored that a nuclear is being set up there. I hope we can make it in time. God save me, may victory belong to NATO. October 3, 2172, cloudy. The plan was for my team to start with the tanks, storm the 141 fort located in Frankfurt, destroy the air defense missiles, then call an airstrike to bomb the nuclear silo. But things seem to have changed a little. My team had received a special mission for the time being. God save me, I hope my ominous feeling is wrong. October 6, 2171, unknown? It's hard to believe, but I am aboard the X-12 space station. In half an hour, we'll be entering an airdrop pod and the destination is Pax Wanghai City. Damn it, it's Fu*King difficult to write in space. October 6, 2171, cloudy, added. I have seen the picture of Wanghai City before the war, and it seems to be a very beautiful place. But now it looks no different than Paris, at least along the coastline and downtown. Our Marine Corps will invade through the coastline, while we will infiltrate enemy territory through airdrop pod and mark strategic target to facilitate the shooting of the space-based weapon God's Cane. Particle barrier generator, air defense missiles, electromagnetic pulse cannon, nuclear power plants. In short, mark anything that is worth destroying. Sounds easy? Perhaps, although the moment the airdrop pod passed through the cloud of radiation, a rare chill went down my spine. October 7, 2172, cloudy. Goddamn *T, this is a living hell. There are pack soldiers everywhere, armored vehicles, tanks and even stranded soldiers from our side. It was a complete mess. Absolute madness. The moment the electromagnetic absorber was deactivated, the power armor would stall for a while. There are radiation and snipers everywhere. We can now only rely on sign language, and everyone acted like they were mute. How many nukes have been detonated here? Or do EMP ever stop? I'm only worried that I have yet to receive communication from the headquarters. This point is of utmost importance. If the team lost? October 8, 2172, rainy. Terrible weather, the rain turned into a bad omen. We almost engaged in a skirmish with our own soldiers today. That's right, across the street where no one could identify each other, and the communication device was in a state of failure. Fortunately, the crisis was averted as Pax tanks helped us to identify them, and then we worked together to solve the problem. They are the Marine Corps and they lost contacts shortly after landing. They followed the offline map's direction as they were supposed to reconvene with other 11 battalion soldiers here, but it seemed like we're the only ones who made it. Lucky guys. I allowed them to join our mission temporarily as they didn't even have anti-tank weapons. Death would be inevitable if they stay, so might as well have them joined us. With the help of light infantry, our vision would reach further since the life detection device is no longer functioning with EMP absorber being activated. October 9, 2172, cloudy. It seems that in addition to rain, it is also cloudy in here. This is strange. The battle has continued for 3 days already. The good thing is that the quality of the buildings is quite high in the center of the city. Despite being showered with nukes, we can still find buildings for cover. We continued to engage in skirmishes with Pac as there were more of us here in the city. That's a good sign. Maybe we'll win the war another day? We almost cheer when we saw the tungsten rod fell from the sky and shattered the particle barrier generator into pieces. However, shortly afterwards our communications went back online. Our God's Cane has been captured by Pac Space Corps? The Fifth Fleet suffered heavy losses? Retreat? Lost? Heck, how does one withdraw from the middle of the city? October 10, 2172, partially cloudy, added. I was the only one left. James was done for, Zach has gone insane. Did Pac soldiers take pity on me? I was somehow expecting that when I got ripped out of the power armor, I would have been beaten, had my limbs broken, and finally be shot dead. But that doesn't seem likely. Pac soldiers are very united, and under the directive of the commander, no one would dare breach it. Although the yellow monkey seems to want to cut my head off. In the end, he didn't do it though. I was familiar with that look of animosity, as if wanting to tear me apart. I can understand that perhaps what we did in school was over the top. But I can't be blamed for that. Although I am a devout believer, my soldiers also need to relieve their stress. Maybe I should have stopped the guy in Georgia State? Come on, who cares? Everyone's dead. I was forced into a truck loaded with captives. There were plenty of people like us in there. Fortunately, they didn't confiscate my diary or I would have gone insane. It is imperative to keep a diary. That's right, it's very important. I'll try not to provoke the guy who escorted us as he already killed 2 unlucky fools. October 15, 2171, sunny. We were brought to somewhere far away from the battlefront. There were a lot of mountains here, also a lot of tunnels, and some factories built underground. I settled down after seeing these because I knew I had no chance of ever returning. Exchange prisoners of war? Hee hee, if I say this, would they let me go? The people in the truck was separated into 2 groups, one group to the north and one group to the south. I have a foreboding feeling that one group would die. Of course, we are all going to die in the end, I just pray that it won't be an ugly death. After coming to the underground base, our faces were soon branded with barcodes and we got our own bed. This place is a bit like a concentration camp. Thank God, my diary is not confiscated. November 17, 2172, unknown. I don't know what the weather on the surface is because we haven't seen the sun in a long time. Are they still fighting out there? Or has the war stopped? Of course, we are already deemed dead, so even if the war ended, I'm afraid we can't return home. The work isn't hard but it is rather boring and we get beaten a lot. Someone tried to run but was apparently killed. We are incarcerated along with the federal death row prisoners. The guy, who slept above me, was a political prisoner. He was very thin with little hair left on his head. He talked to me in English and asked me if I believed in God. I said I don't, or rather I believed in him before. He didn't mind as he continued to chat about other things. To be honest, I was quite disgusted with any topics related to political point of view. But he seemed to become increasingly more frustrated. Thank God, he got shot not long after. November 21, 2172, unknown. There are dead people being dragged away every day, however, there are more people being brought in. Maybe the war is about to end? After all, there are less familiar faces and more Asian faces are being brought in. But what made me unsettled is that I spotted some Slavs from the latest batch of captives. Did PAC and CCCP go to war as well? Luckily, that's a great news for NATO. However, how long will a war of this level last? December 25, 2172, unknown, maybe it is snowing? Today is Christmas without Christmas tree and candles, and buttery cornmeal porridge. I don't believe in God, but I still prayed devoutly and pray to my diary. My inmate said I am crazy, I disagreed. Someone had tried to steal my diary, I beat him to a pulp. I broke his nose, and we were both taken in. I left the journal under my pillow but no one dared to touch it. Perhaps I scared them? I trust that they are all unafraid of death, me neither, but I believe that no one wants to die. No can beat me here. I am a special force, while they are all political prisoners. Suckers. May 6, 2173, unknown. I am not sure if it was earthquake or airstrike. It's probably an airstrike. Everyone quivered at the corner but I didn't. I read the journal from the beginning again. I didn't have time to write every day. Most of the time, I only left a date. It was hard to find a pen, so if there was nothing special, I choose to leave it blank. The barrage lasted for a long time, but it stopped eventually. Someone mentioned relocating and I smiled. Where to? June 14, 2173, cloudy. The day of relocation came. Unfortunately, I wasn't welcomed by the sun. It was snowing outside, and the sky was covered with radiation dust. Is this what they called nuclear winter? Being able to see snow in summer was quite an experience. The soldiers guarding us all wore protective suit, but we only wore a jacket. They didn't plan on using us for as long as they only gave us an iodine chip. We were still left in the truck. When I left, I was surprised to find out that few mountains have gone missing. Or should I say, became pits. I remember that's where the group of people from the north headed to work. June 20th, 2173, sunny. Surprisingly, today is sunny. Amazingly, I returned to Wanghai City. Order seems to have been restored here as there are already some citizens living in rural areas. Of course, they didn't look well, probably the unlucky people that didn't manage to hide in shelters. At any rate, this is a good sign that the war is over. Or at the very least, a ceasefire. Still, it has nothing with us. I was escorted into an underground survival base or a research facility. This is because survival base wouldn't open in less than a year, which should be the same in every country. A man in a white lab coat welcomed me and smiled at me, but I only felt chill in my hands and feet. It's as though he was looking at a white mouse. Insane, this is insane. For the first time, I experience real fear. Damn it. I can't remember the time, unknown. The diary was confiscated. Ripped into pieces. But so what, I memorized everything. They are crazy. Do they think they can create XXXX like this? Scratched out. Wait, why am I still normal? Well, now it's certain that they are insane. If someone sees this diary, everything would have been worthwhile. I tried to leave something behind, but it was futile. All clues will be hidden. But I still firmly believe that there are smart people out there who will find the clue. Why am I still conscious? Why hasn't it been erased? I should have been dead. Well, before I die, I hope that Asian girl will forgive me for my sins. That's probably not going to happen though. Colonel George's final words, pays tribute to the NATO flag. Jiang Chen's hands and feet felt cold after reading it. There must be something that's missing, but what was it exactly? This wasn't normal, no, what was normal? Inside the drawer, there was a gun lying next to the diary. Revolver. Hand trembling, Jiang Chen swallowed after finally picking up the firearm. Feeling the cold metal texture, he unloaded the magazine. The copper-colored metal bullets burned his eyes. It's a real gun. Inside the drawer in the activity room of the school library. What the hell is this place? And not to mention the insane colonel's diary. It's only year 2171, how would the journal spoke of something from the year 2173? Wait, time travel? Jiang Chen felt an onslaught of headache. He clutched his forehead and sat back on the chair. His head was a mess. It's as though everything was a déjà vu, but he couldn't explain where the feeling came from. Am I forgetting something? Jiang Chen frowned. He tried to search for every nook and cranny of his memory in the hope of finding clues. But he didn't even know what the clue was. From learning how to speak when he was a baby, to his elementary education, and then his junior high, up until this moment. Every piece of memory was so vivid. Where's the problem? Wait, why is it so clear? I can even remember the details of changing diaper. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen suddenly blanked out. He felt he had grasped onto something, but he must have missed a detail, just a tiny bit. It was at this time that he suddenly heard an unexpected knock. Are you in there? An abrupt but gentle voice struck at Jiang Chen's heart like a hammer. Translator's thoughts. Onderstreping steken min onderstreping steken onderstreping steken min onderstreping steken. With regards to all the confusions happening in the recent chapters, I pushed the release schedule ahead. Enjoy. Chapter 94, Fear from the Sky. Are you in there? Tingting's voice came through. Just as Jiang Chen was about to open his mouth, his throat felt like it was stuck with cotton known as fear. He lifted his terminal slowly. 4:25 p.m. There were still 15 minutes left before the class ends, so how can she be in here? That's really strange. Even if the sports instructor wants her to find me, why would she go to the activity room? It's as if... I know. I've been watching you for a long time. Suddenly, the too familiar but surreal confession surfaced in his head. A frightening thought crept into his mind. Being watched? A drop of cold sweat rolled down his forehead as Jiang Chen held his breath. He didn't even dare to make a sound. Instinct told him that there must be something wrong, but he couldn't explain where the problem came from. Tingting is a stalker? How is that possible? But she is so graceful. Wait, graceful? It seems that it was her who took the initiative to push me down yesterday. Usually, she would be reading under the window, but today... Jiang Chen searched through today's memory. Yao Tingting's watching him, being engrossed in her terminal, paying attention to class, watching him smile. A disquieting feeling crept all over his body. I heard there's a ghost at the ground floor of the library. Have you seen it? The knocking sound was light, but it pierced through his heart like a hammer. He couldn't explain the reason, but his instincts told him that terrible things would happen if he opened the door this time. Jiang Chen let the beads of sweat roll across his face as he sat there motionlessly. He looked at the drawer where the gun was, but it failed to bring him even a scant trace of security. Like drums playing, the pace of knocking seemed to increase and grew louder. All of a sudden, a violent, smashing sound transmitted through the door. The frantic, smashing sound made every single one of Jiang Chen's muscles tighten due to tension, and his facial expression morphed into a stunned expression. The sound, however, suddenly came to an abrupt stop, followed by the sound of fading footsteps. Has he given up? Jiang Chen let out a sigh of relief. He then touched his chest and felt a wet sensation from his hand. It was then that he figured out that his body was drenched in sweat without even realizing it. Now that I think about it, the uncomfortable feeling came from the robot yesterday morning. No, to be precise, it should be during that morning class. Jiang Chen realized something. Yes, it was at that time when the entire class was staring at him. His heart responded with an eerie feeling known as uncanny valley effect. Could it be, all the students are robots? An odd expression appeared on his face as he thought that the very idea was preposterous. Why? He grew up with Xiaoping together. Qian Han, who was sitting in front, even gave him a love letter, and Yao Tingting. Jiang Chen suddenly frowned. Where did all the books that Yao Tingting always read go? Boom! The violent tremor almost threw him on the ground as the window produced a loud, sharp sound. He got up hurriedly, ran to the window and discovered a shocking scene. A blue light hit the dome protecting the city. The light blue particle disintegrated, followed by the thinning air membrane. There was no sound as the concave barrier opened a gap in the center and the blue light faded away. Suddenly, countless numbers of dense, black dots dropped from the sky, each carrying a trail of air waves behind. Those were NATO's airdrop soldiers, as well as the bombs used to disguise them. It was, however, at this moment that the ground fired a series of orange flare missiles to the ground. It was the anti-aircraft missiles stationed in the city. A loud rumble fell from the sky and a series of explosions filled the sky with bright sparks. The deafening air defense alarm broke the city sky, accompanied by the cry and scream from the distant street, which woke Jiang Chen up from his stupor. Not even a single warning. It's a fuck asterisk-ing war. This can't be happening. He looked at the sky, terrified. Jiang Chen retreated from the window and rushed outside the door. The news already announced that when the air defense alarm got triggered, everyone should immediately go to the nearest defense shelter, and the sanctuary would be forcefully closed once it reached the right time and go into a dormant mode. Jiang Chen didn't have time to get confused as his priority was to stay alive. He glanced at the table before he left the activity room, he gritted his teeth and reluctantly sprinted downstairs. There was a gun on the table, but he didn't think it would bring him any semblance of security. If he really encountered a NATO soldier, he's afraid that it would be more dangerous to wield a gun. Moreover, according to the rules of war, they usually didn't shoot civilians. Not only it was a waste of bullets, it was also quite troublesome. He tried to comfort himself as he dashed down the stairs towards the gate of the school and ran for his life. At this time, however, a massive explosion broke out in the sky in the distance from the center of the city. He felt the scorching heat wave despite the distance of 100 kilometers away. Mushroom cloud. It was a nuclear bomb. Fu asterisco kappa. Jiang Chen stared at the orange mushroom cloud and the falling black dots with quivering eyes. Boom! The intense shockwave almost blew him away. He tried to raise his arm to cover his face. From the rapid airflow of the cylindrical airdrop pods came out several soldiers in power armor. There was simply no room for escape. Jiang Chen's shoulders relaxed, signaling that he had given up, and his face gave way to a wry smile. Why was his reaction so calm? Even he himself didn't have any ideas. The last thing he saw was a gun barrel. Boom! Struggling to open his eyes, the first thing Jiang Chen saw was the wooden floor of the gymnasium. He realized he was thrown on the ground. He struggled to stand up, his chest and joint throbbed in pain, but he couldn't let out a sound because of fear. The gym was filled with people, students, and teachers. Everyone's terrified face had hopelessness written all over them as NATO soldiers circled around. The cold barrels were ominous. No one dared to make a sound as they quietly watched Jiang Chen, who was thrown on the ground. Jiang Chen, are you okay? Yao Tingting anxiously hurried to his side. He felt the body temperature enveloping him as he exerted all his effort to open his puffy eyes. He caught a glimpse of graceful face fraught with tears. Tingting? You're also here? What, how are you? The silvery voice was tearful. He felt the softness touching the swell on his face as he forced out a smile. He wanted to lift his hand to wipe off her tears, comfort her, and embrace her, however. Drag that girl over here. Yes. Two soldiers in power armors walked over. Let me go. What are you doing? Jiang Chen watched the person forcefully drag Yao Tingting away from him in horror. Jiang Chen, save me. No. Jiang Chen desperately tried to hold on her, but he was met with a boot on his face. The kick almost made him lose his consciousness again. In the corner of Jiang Chen's blurry eyes, he saw the soldiers who dragged Yao Tingting away took off his mask. It was a pale, devil-like face that was currently mocking him. Listen up, hostages, that's right, you guys are all hostages, your so-called holy barrier system has already been broken by our space-based weapon. Don't count on being rescued, stay there obediently, and pray that your fathers won't blow you up as well. The person standing at the stadium of the gym seemed to be the leader of the squad as he was using the loudspeaker of the power armor. Ting-ting, Jiang Chen struggled to crawl to the figure being dragged away. Boss, this girl is quite pretty. It would be a pity if we hang her outside. Hee, what if? The white soldier had a leery grin as he held the girl up. He seemed to be pleased by her frightened appearance and almost sobbing figure. Another soldier also took off the armor mask and exposed a black face and white teeth. Are all people from Georgia, state in the UA, perverted like this? But sir, I do agree with his point of view, hee. What are you trying to do? Jiang Chen's heart suddenly ached. He bit his lips as he struggled to stand up to his feet, however, his woozy head kept him unstable. No, a shrill cry resounded throughout the gym. Seeing the commander nodded, the soldier then tore the white floral dress apart. In front of everyone. Stop. Jiang Chen opened his mouth as his finger almost penetrated through the hard wooden floor. His bloodshot eyes were ferocious. However, it wasn't him who screamed out. Was that Zhao Peng? No. Jiang Chen reached out his hand to his childhood friend in horror. Bang! Smoke floated from the muzzle. Beautiful, man. Bullseye. Ha. The soldier heard his comrade's compliment before he made an exaggerated shooting gesture at the crowd. He was gratified to see the crowd screaming and scrambling backward in terror. Don't come over. Yao Tingting shrunk back on the ground as she tried to use the torn pieces of clothes to cover her naked body. The white soldier with perverted smile strapped the gun to his waist as he walked towards Yao Tingting, who was scampering backward. Don't worry, we'll do it one by one. Jiang Chen, save me. Jiang Chen. Woo. The young, beautiful Chinese teacher from next class stood up, her expression wore a decided humiliated expression. She was trembling but refused to flinch. Let the girl go, I'll take her place. The black soldier standing on the sidelines laughed, and then came and grabbed her by the collar, ignoring her scrambling limbs due to her difficulty in breathing, and threw her on the stadium. You guys can go together. We have plenty of brothers here. Eyes filled with sorrow. Dead eyes without the soul. And dilated pupils because of the shocking horror. Blood covered every single inch of Jiang Chen's eyes. At this time, however, an unprecedented clarity he had never experienced before eradicated all the tyrannical emotions in his heart. Hee, are you guys done fooling around? Jiang Chen closed his eyes carelessly. He struggled to shift and then sat on the ground. His mouth curled up into a sneer and his eyes regained its tranquility. The Secret Teller? Chapter 95, The Imperfection in the Perfect Plan. Fury, muscle strength plus 20, reflex plus 19, brain cell strength plus 17. Special ability, killer instinct, the ability to perceive the location of the heart with any of the 5 senses. He didn't expect to enter a fury right here. Jiang Chen coldly scanned the bodies without red dots, ignoring the pairs of lifeless eyes staring at him, and finally stopping his sight on Yao Tingting. Zhao Peng lying in the pool of blood, the teacher struggling on the ground beneath the soldiers, the students, even the soldiers. No heart. Everyone was a sham, as though they were nothing but an empty shell. Including Yao Tingting. Oh? How did you figure it out? Yao Tingting paused for a moment before a smile erupted on her face and stood up naked. It was a peculiar sight, a smiling girl standing while naked. Beside her was the monster with a ferocious expression about to bring her down to the ground, but the monster was cemented in mid-air. He looked into Yao Tingting's eyes dispassionately and said, because I have an annoying ability, and you happen to have no heart. Yao Tingting was momentarily stunned before revealing her signature smile again. She then raised her delicate finger and drew in the air, and a holographic screen appeared out of thin air beside her body. So that's how it is? Increase in 3 body stats and a skill that can see the heart? This isn't a friendly bug. A peculiar smile curved on her mouth as she examined the stats on the panel. Hee, although I had formed a variety of conjectures, never would I have thought that. This is a game, right? Jiang Chen gazed at the beautiful yet pure face as he squeezed the words out of his mouth, the secret teller, huh? Just now, he finally understood the question that had been plaguing him. The effect of brain cell strength plus 17 as the result of a fury was not an increase in intelligence but rather to break through the barrier in his memory and regained his consciousness. Oh, almost but not quite. I am the secret protector. Perhaps it's time for the next round? Yao Tingting clapped her hands in delight. The secret protector? There were actually 2 people? The occasional explosion in the sky suddenly stopped, and the war outside came to a halt with the sound of the clap. The colors of the world began to fade starting from the corner of the stadium as bits and pieces dissipated gradually. Do you intend to continue this boring game? Jiang Chen sneered as he said with disdain. Why not? The silvery laughter sounded disturbing. I am looking forward to your next round of performance. After looking at Jiang Chen one last time, Yaotingting faded along with everything in that world. Really? He looked at the interdimensional bracelet on his wrist. The bracelet's ability was not copied into this world, so there was no way to return to the modern world in the game. I just have to rely on other means to break through the game. The floor was already disintegrating as Jiang Chen silently watched his body along with the fragments dissipate into the abyss. June 11, 2171, Summer. The diary only had dates in it, and no other texts had been written in it. He felt a slight dizziness as though he had just taken a nap, and everything that just happened was like a reverie. Dropping down the pen, Jiang Chen looked around the familiar room. Fury is still in effect. Could it be because of the increase in brain cell strength that my memory was not erased? He faintly closed his eyes as he searched for the clues in his memory. Memory before entering the game was retained, the end cycle memory was saved, and the end one cycle memory was missing. When he opened his eyes, his line of sight caught the diary to the electronic clock on the table. 7:37 p.m. So, this is the starting point of the game. Then, all previous memories should be false. In reality, it didn't feel good to negate the realistic memory one by one. It's as if you're living a great life, then one night you had a nightmare, a mysterious figure told you that the world in the dream was the reality, and when you woke up you'd go into a virtual world. Yaotingting is the secret protector. No, to be more accurate, she should have been replaced by a secret at some point. That book was a clue, and Jiang Chen desperately searched for the details in his memory. It appears that when I shared the spoiler, the secret guardian noticed the discrepancy. It was just a sense of DJVU, but it had thought that I recovered my memory? It seemed that from that point on, the book in Yaotingting's hands disappeared. That person had been replaced since then. So if this is the case, it suspected that I woke up from the hypnotism, so it replaced Yaotingting's identity and joined the game as a participant. Therefore, anyone could be the secret protector. Wait, what's the point of this game? Frowning, he sat quietly on the desk as he recalled the diary in the activity room on the second floor of the library. I was escorted into an underground survival base or a research facility. So what, I have memorized everything. They are crazy. Do they think they can create XXX like this? Scratched out. And Yaotingting's words. I know. I have been paying attention to you. The identity of the informant and the secret protector. All the clues strung together like a key and opened the lock in his heart. The corner of his mouth sliding raised up as he leaned back on the chair. That diary should be the key to break through the game. No wonder the secret guardian always tried to keep me away from the library. Whenever I approached the library, it would see all kinds of method to stop me. Whether it was the so-called ghost in the library or the furious guard. What the secret protector didn't know, however, was that the more it tried to cover up something, the more suspicious he became. It can be said that its constant attempt to stop him actually pushed him to where the truth was located. Even it wiped the memory in his head, it can't wipe the strong feeling of DJVU. Where did I see this before? Did I seem to be here before? I have experienced this before. Whether it was the drama airing or the opened activity room, everything had the feeling of DJVU. Perhaps he was there NX week ago, but because there was no memory retention, therefore, it ignorantly entered into the next cycle. Force restart could perhaps seal the memory and remove the clues, but it cannot remove the constant feeling of DJVU. In the end, this feeling led to finding the evidence he searched for in the previous cycle. And then because the end cycle led him into a fury, all the evidence was saved to the N+1 week. If he didn't manage to jump out of the loop, the game would probably go on and on. Hee, what kind of game is this? This is absolutely insane. A game designed for the purpose of an experiment. It inhumanely put people into the game like a lab rat. Then simulate the plot, collect data, therefore, allowing the intermediate artificial intelligence to evolve into advanced artificial intelligence? Is this the experiment that the colonel mentioned in his diary? Jiang Chen thought calmly. There was still a lot of suspicions. For example, the secret protector is the absolute controller of the game, then I wouldn't be able to beat it at any rate. But the peculiar cleaning robots, the opened activity room, the diary left as a clue, these obvious bugs are not removed after countless amount of cycles but had been completely preserved. The secret protector even had to interfere with my actions by actively intervening with the plot to prevent me from getting close to the library. In conclusion, the secret protector's power in the game is similar to that of a game master, but it cannot change the game itself. Also, if the purpose of the game was to allow it to evolve into an advanced AI by observing humans and collecting data, it wouldn't make sense if it was granted the power to change the game. A good analogy would be, if the measuring data is unattractive, and someone manually added 1 or 2 zeros in an experiment, then it wouldn't be considered as an experiment anymore. Its power was limited and not invincible. Jiang Chen picked up its pen, drew 3 circles in the diary, and labeled it separately. Safe zone, neutral zone, and danger zone. If I perform illogical action, then everyone would look at me like I'm a robot, because of the confused thinking, which will automatically trigger the uncanny valley effect. The intermediate artificial intelligence may have analysis ability, but too much calculation will result in a lag? Or confusion? On the contrary, basic AI can only respond logically and can't think, so it does not produce confusion and the like. So, NPC should be made up of low-level AIs? Jiang Chen mumbled to himself as he labeled the school as danger zone. The activity room on the 2nd floor of the library should be the safe zone because Yaotingting couldn't enter it. Jiang Chen wrote it in the safe zone. Should NATO invasion be considered as an event? Also, to collect data, the secret guardian should be in control of the switch to advance the plot, otherwise, repeating the same cycle would just result in similar data. It was an important point, so Jiang Chen jotted it down in his diary. He pulled out the drawer and saw 2 movie tickets. A smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face. If there is no irregularity, then the plot should be, asking her out, confession, watching a movie, possible sex, NATO invasion. It simulated the first love to completed devastation. In this case, any of the scene that could trigger the plot should belong to danger zone under the absolute control of the secret guardian. Yaotingting's home and the movie theater he has yet to visit were categorized under the danger zone. Because of the incomplete plot in the last cycle, a lot of clues became available. Jiang Chen scanned the room and wrote, protagonist's home under the safe zone area. The street should be a neutral zone, whereby it lacks the ability to trigger plot. He flipped his pen and wrote street under the neutral zone before he lifted his eyes to look at the digital clock. 8:07 p.m. It already exceeded the maximum duration of half an hour limit, but a fury has yet to be deactivated. Therefore, the passage of time in the game is unequal to the passage of time in real world. In terms of efficiency, the longer the user experienced in the game, the shorter the time passed in reality, so the data gathered in the real-world time frame will be more. Perhaps that I already experienced end cycles, but it may only be a few seconds in reality? With the processing speed of the advanced computer, that is absolutely a possibility, however, it would put a lot of strain on the mind. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen let out a breath of relief. The time he agreed on with Sun Jiao was 2 hours, and if he had been here for a month or 2 already, he was afraid that it would be then too late to return to the ground. Speaking of that, by letting me activate a fury, that talkative thing still expects itself to win. The tip of his lips curled up on his mouth. That's right, in a game that relied on hypnotism, brain cell strength was a huge bug. Hypnotism would no longer be effective on him. Chapter 96, Inescapable. Jiang Chen opened the door. There's not much difference between day and night. If I am consistently being monitored, then even selecting daytime would not increase my chances of winning. Or maybe, it is safer in the day since the majority of the people will be in their home, and there would be less pawns that the secret protector could use. He went downstairs and saw the cleaning robot. It still gave off the same hollow look that instinctively produced a disquieting feeling. The cleaning robot left the first clue, so it should be considered friendly? Although he didn't know who left this clue, but presumably, it wasn't on the secret protector's side, Jiang Chen thought as he walked past the robot and turned back. The robot was looking at another direction. South? Is there something over there? There was also another cleaning robot in front of the library. In the end cycle, it blocked the security guard for me. Jiang Chen looked south, but the tall buildings blocked his view. From the general direction, it should be located in the center of the city. Wait a minute, when Yaotingting took me away from the library, the robot at the door also appeared to be looking at the same direction after exchanging eye contact with me. Suddenly, Jiang Chen realized this clue and his face turned exalted. He then walked to the robot that seemed to be lagging. He took out the terminal, followed the robot's direction, and drew a line on the map. The line skidded across the boundary of the town center. There is also another robot in front of the library door. With only 2-line intersection, it would be difficult to guess the accurate location on the map. Therefore, there must be another robot. With 3-line intersection, it would be able to pinpoint and mark a possible area. There should be something in there that could help me beat the game. But where is the third robot? Jiang Chen frowned. The end cycle plot was incomplete with this logic. He put his hand into his pocket and grabbed the 2 movie tickets, his face then lit up with a triumphant smile. In front of the movie theater? That should be right. If nothing happened, the 2 movie tickets should serve its purpose on the 3rd day. But the secret protector's intervention forced the plot to advance and even introduced a huge move of canceling the holiday. This made the movie plot never occurred and triggered the sex scene. I see. Without hesitation, Jiang rushed to the nearest subway and then headed downtown. He sprinted out of the subway, jogged across 2 streets and stopped in front of the movie theater, gasping for air. It was that cleaning robot, and it was looking straight into his eyes. Then, it looked away. Southwest. He pulled out his terminal again and drew a line on the map. Without stopping for a moment, he then returned to the subway and caught the last train. Breathlessly, Jiang Chen sat on the cold, hard chair. He looked around the empty train and looked at the time. 9:39 p.m. It's already this late? The train arrived at the station as Jiang Chen quickly rushed to the school's direction and stopped in front of the school gate. The school is considered as danger zone, so going directly to the activity room on the 2nd floor will be pretty difficult. Troubled by the thought, he looked around and looked up. I'm afraid that the secret guardian must be closely monitoring my move, and just waiting to make a move as soon as I enter. Thinking of this, his face showed a wry smile. Jiang Chen took a deep breath and after observing the height of the gate, he rushed towards the door. If it had been before, 2 meters would be unreachable but... Jiang Chen leaped easily across the gate. The increase in muscle strength due to a fury was perfectly replicated within the game. Indeed, the game data is based on physical data in the real world. The shrill alarm sounded instantly. Having predicted that this would happen, he cursed and rushed to the direction of the library. Stop! It was the security guard. Jiang Chen ignored him, knowing full well that with his current muscle strength, no one would be able to catch up to him. Even if all the units in the school were pawns of the secret guardian, it shouldn't be able to change the body stats of the characters. It took less than 10 seconds for Jiang Chen to outrun the security by 100 meters from the security room. Then, he spotted the cleaning robot at the door. Southeast. With a rough view from the street light, Jiang Chen did not slow down the slightest as he slammed into the glass door of the library. Warning. Security system activated. 100 meters more. The metal gate of the library started closing, and Jiang Chen, who noticed this, gritted his teeth and accelerated. He turned around and maintained his velocity and smashed into the closed glass door. Crash. The glass door was smashed into pieces. At the last possible second, Jiang Chen broke into the library with the metal gate behind firmly shut. Jiang Chen felt the painful cut from his arms, legs and face but didn't have time to tend to his wounds. Ignoring the glass shards on the floor, he scrambled to his feet and continued towards the stairs. 2nd floor. End of the hallway. Activity room. The door is shut. Jiang Chen slammed the door, but the door remained firmly shut. Did it close after the security system got activated? Damn. How could it be like this? Jiang Chen desperately beat down the door. Could it be the activity room door is closed at night? That's impossible. What should I do? Haha, where are you going to run now, you bloody thief? The security guard's frightening voice from the other end of the hallway made him drenched in cold sweat. Fu*K, how did you get in with the metal door being shut? Jiang Chen swore in his mind, but since it was not the time to think about it, he quickly forced himself to calm down. With a start, he suddenly remembered that he had acquired an access to the terminal using the electronic key on the desk when he turned on the air conditioner with it. No, after the timeline is reset, the access should also be removed. Wait a minute, if the activity room is a special place, then the whitelist IDs will probably be retained even after the timeline reset. Jiang Chen didn't hesitate anymore after seeing the twisted and hideous face along with the taser in his hand from the end of the corridor. He took out the terminal, connected to the local network, and opened the electronic lock. Click. The light sound was like an angel's voice to Jiang Chen as his heart turned ecstatic. Then, he rushed to the door and slammed it shut. Dong. The frustrated kicking sound was transmitted through the door. Just as he thought, the room's existence was rather unique, a place similar to the backdoor of the game. As for the reason for its existence and why the Colonel's diary was kept in here, everything still remained a mystery. However, he had a hunch that he was getting closer to the truth. At the same time, a white light pierced the night sky and lit up the entire city. Jiang Chen quickly went to the window and looked at the bright sky with astonishment. The bright, white light fell down like raindrops as they left ripples on the city's dome. The deafening explosion soon followed as the holy barrier system, protecting Wanghai, was broken through. What kind of energy weapon is this? There was no time to hesitate. Jiang Chen rushed towards the table, opened the drawer, and picked up the pistol inside. A violent explosion came from the outside and made the window viciously vibrate. Was that an airdrop pod? Jiang Chen was alarmed by the explosion coming from downstairs. It should be NATO soldiers forcing their way in. Looking at the gun in his hand, he suddenly realized the purpose of the gun. Jiang Chen took a final glance at the triangle area where the three lines intersected on the map. He disengaged the safety and loaded the gun. He raised the gun and aimed the muzzle at his own temple, a grim smile appearing on his lips. Bang! Chapter 97, Zombie Invasion. How much courage would it take to shoot your own head? The question was quite complicated and would depend on the situation. Despite knowing that this was a game, the memory of growing up would still be vivid. How would you describe this feeling? Well, imagine this: you've been living a good life, then one day, you suddenly had the urge to question the authenticity of the world as there was an extra bit of memory added. Despite being fully confident that the newly added memory was the real memory and all the previous memories were fake. And now you had an idea that as long as die, you could escape the game and return to the real world. There was no pain. It's just like closing his eyes for a while. Jiang Chen woke up from the dream again. 7:37 p.m. At that moment, however, his hand was not holding a pen but rather a black revolver. Looks like you can't escape the game through death. Makes sense. If it's that easy to escape, then the easiest way would be to jump down from the window. Jiang Chen let out a self-deprecating smile and glanced outside the window. The pistol following him after death was a huge bug. Jiang Chen played with the gun in his hands and unloaded the magazine. 16 rounds, the magazine was full again, so this gun should also play a role. Although he didn't know how it happened, it appeared that the bullets were being replenished after every reset of the game. With the gun stuffed in his pocket, Jiang Chen opened the bedroom door, passed through the living room and headed towards the door. It was already night time, but there shouldn't be no difference inside the game. He pulled out his terminal and opened the map. The position marked by the triangle was gone, but he firmly remembered it. The Xinpu Hospital in the northern district. He put the terminal away and rushed to the direction of the subway. 8:07 p.m. There were only a few pedestrians in the subway. Perhaps it was because the situation was a bit tense recently, everyone avoided traveling. After the rush hour, only few people could be seen in the subway. Sitting on a cold chair and waiting for the train to slowly accelerate, Jiang Chen sighed as he looked at the small TV on the wall. The host was cracking jokes with his assistants and the audience was all laughing. He, however, couldn't smile. If everything is fake, then what about the memory of these past 17 years? Am I too deep into this? Jiang Chen shook his head and touched the gun in his pocket. The cold, metallic feeling gave him a trace of comfort. Not only could he integrate into another world, but he even acquired another set of memory. Even after experiencing death a countless number of times, only seconds passed by in reality. Had the future of technology and science been developed to this extent? Or rather, had it already been terrifying to this point? He somehow felt a little despondent at the moment and gave a wry smile. He just wanted to end this bloody game, and then return the memory that wasn't his back to the server. Creak. The light suddenly went out without warning, and the carriage shook violently. As soon as it happened, Jiang Chen immediately reached out his hands and grabbed the handrail beside him. Jiang Chen's muscles stretched violently as the pain almost made him broke his teeth, but his hands grasping the handrail did not let go. Ah! The passengers, who didn't keep their balance, began to fall as they smashed into the front of the train like thin paper. Pa! Blood covered his line of sight. Enduring his churning stomach, the forceful pulling almost made his eyes burst, and the veins on his arm were about to explode. Boom! The force was so strong that eventually, Jiang Chen could not hold on anymore and fiercely crashed into heaps of dead body. A trail of gruesome sparks flashed across the window. The train appeared to have a rear-end collision. It crashed into the rear of a preceding train and derailed with it. Jiang Chen frantically scrambled to his feet. He dragged his dizzy head and hit the emergency door release button, however, the door failed to open. Has the emergency circuit been destroyed too? Damn. He couldn't think for long because if he delayed any longer, another train would have come from behind. While shivering, he took out the terminal in pain. He pulled out the cord beside the emergency exit button and connected it to the terminal. Fortunately, it was still functional. After gaining access, Jiang Chen hurriedly pressed the release button and unlocked the access to the safety hammer through the direct connection. Jiang Chen gritted his teeth as he took out the red safety hammer from the partition wall. He used his entire body's strength to smash the window. A layer of white mist along the hammer spread from the point of impact. Another swing. Crush. The double-pane window was smashed into pieces as white mist burst forth. Just as Jiang Chen was about to climb out of the window, he felt a hand grabbed his leg. He turned around and saw a woman with dreadful face and pale, white eyes, and then she opened her badly mutilated mouth. He swung his hammer and smashed the woman's head into pieces. Fu asterisco kappa. Zombies? This time it's a biochemical plot. It appeared that the plot that Secret Guardian could trigger was not limited to NATO invasion. There was no time to think as Jiang Chen noticed that there were some limbs twitching in the heap of bloody corpse. He carried the safety hammer in his hand, jumped out of the window, rolled on the ground, and climbed onto the platform on the other side. Screech. From afar came a screeching sound. It was another train. Jiang Chen desperately ran 100 meters outside the underground tunnel exit. Almost as soon as he had just turned into the groove on the wall of the tunnel, there was another explosion behind him. The broken parts left screeching noise on the concrete wall. The train twisted into a ball as the door plate broke off and embedded into the wall not far away behind Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen suppressed the violent throbbing of his heart. He pulled the sliding door with all his strength, but the door didn't budge. Another swing. The door didn't break, but the concrete holding the door was shattered by his brute force. Jiang Chen pushed the door down and followed the zigzag-shaped stairs and quickly ran outside. When he opened the security door and stepped on the ground, the scene that greeted him stunned him. Like a scene straight from an apocalypse. The entire street was in mayhem. Cars collided into each other or exploded or broke down on the road. The entire area was a mess. Horrified screams came one after another. People fought, or more accurately, zombies were hunting the fleeing humans. The pairs of pale, white eyes were much more frightening under the light. Occasionally, there were people who would smash the window open and frantically jump out, but their fate was either to fall to their death or to be devoured by the zombies below. Hungry. Jiang Chen felt a sudden chill on his back as he turned around and found a zombie was heading towards him. He didn't think as he swung the hammer, then the zombie's head flew out like a golf ball. Suppressing the nausea, Jiang Chen hurriedly took out the map to verify his location. He was only 2 streets north of the hospital. Fortunately, the train collision was close to the destination. After confirming his location, he immediately ran to the other side of the street. Zombies were stronger during nighttime. The night devoid of UV lights couldn't restrict its fighting prowess. Of course, these zombies were still within the first stage of mutation. The useless fat was still attached to the body. In a few years' time, once the zombies metamorphosed the body fats into dense muscles, their speed would be more than double. However, there was no use talking about this as even fresh zombies would be impossible to defeat once they banded together. Jiang Chen smashed another zombie in front of him before jumping on top of the car. Before he got surrounded by the zombies, he hopped on another car 3 meters away. Jiang Chen's shoes left a huge dent on the roof. Not stopping to take a look, he then landed on another vehicle. With the power of a fury, the distance was nothing to him, and by hopping on the vehicles, he narrowly escaped from the zombie-infested street. His feet landed heavily on the concrete ground before the howling zombies could swarm around him. His hammer swung and killed off 2 zombies as he desperately ran to the direction of the hospital. 100 meters. 20 meters. He darted to the stairs in front of the door. The hall was infested with zombies. Fortunately, it was nighttime so there weren't many people in the hallway. With a couple of dim lights, he could roughly make out the situation inside the hall. There were few women in nurse clothes rushing towards him with gaping bloody mouth. Jiang Chen gritted his teeth as he motioned his already sore arm muscles to make another hit. It shattered the zombies into pieces. However, another zombie rushed towards him from the side and attacked him. Fu asterisco kappa. His left arm was firmly bitten. It was the first time that he had been made keenly aware of the danger of zombies. The zombies were beginning to circle him. Jiang Chen kicked the zombies away and took out the revolver. Bang! The bullet penetrated the zombie's head. Bang! Jiang Chen's facial muscles twisted because of the pain in his left arm, but he resisted the pain while shooting with his right hand and scrambling towards the safety hammer. He put the pistol in his pocket and picked up the safety hammer from the ground. He glanced at the fallen zombies on the floor as he spat fiercely on the ground, and then Jiang Chen was momentarily lost. He's at the hospital, but what now? Chapter 98, Dead End. Jiang Chen jumped over the counter in the lobby of the hospital and hid under the table while holding his hammer. His left arm was still bleeding and a piece of his flesh was badly mangled, but since he was injected with the genetic vaccine, the zombie bacterial infection should not affect him. He took a deep breath as he tried to make his violently pumping heart calm down. He took out the revolver and unloaded the magazine. 10 bullets left. With a trembling left hand, he pushed the magazine back in, put the revolver back in the original pocket, and took several deep breaths. Though it sounded crazy, he couldn't muster any killing intent towards these dummies. Thinking of this, Jiang Chen could not help but reveal a wry smile. It could be said that this was probably his calmest state. There was not a single red dot in his sight, and despite facing a horde of zombies, there was no desire for aggression. Jiang Chen closed his eyes to clear his mind from the distracting thoughts as he earnestly searched every details in his head. There must be something wrong. The exit is obviously in front of him, but where exactly is it? Jiang Chen carried the PK-2000 into the room as he immediately assumed his battle stance for shooting, but there was a gun pointing at his head. Why? Oh, nothing, I'm just thinking, is it really necessary? Jiang Chen placed the PK-2000 and fuel rod on the ground as he raised both hands with a wry smile. Even if he returned to the modern world, he would still appear in the same position, which would expose his ultimate weapon. It would take 3 seconds to initiate self-destruction process after entering the password, but the muzzle at his head didn't look like it would give him the time. There is no bug, wait, maybe there is. Pieces of meat lump attached to the rows of hibernation bins lined up, and the moving thin film made for a disturbing sight, but what made him even more disturbed was the gun pointing at his head. Didn't you say that a bug threatened you? Jiang Chen's hands were raised up as cold sweats poured across his forehead. His eyes secretly swept across the great expanse of the giant hall. The layout was like that of a theater, however, instead of spectator seats, there were hibernation bins attached to a chunk of meat, and a huge transparent pod can be seen in the center of the stage. In the midst of dark green liquid that churned with bubbles lied a naked girl floating peacefully, just like a delicate piece of art. But Jiang Chen couldn't see much of her face due to the distance. That's right, a bug did threaten me, so I captured it. The plate-sized drone had a barrel hanging below, and there was a rather comically small TV on top of it. The figures in the TV were wearing a mask, or maybe it didn't have the concept of face to begin with, just an abstract feature. Captured it? Jiang Chen froze. Yes, it threatened to use corrosive liquid to melt my door, as humorous as how you would want to weld my door. Hee hee, so I let it in and then used the particle cannon to blow up half of its body, it said, and an excessively long cannon fell from above. Jiang Chen couldn't help but break out a cold sweat while looking at it. He stared at the frightening dent left on the ground and somewhat had difficulty swallowing. To my surprise, the rest of it seemed alive, so I dismembered it into pieces and raised it in the hibernation bin. The secret informant in the small TV shrugged and laughed merrily. What about the people in the hibernation bins? They have been long dead, so I reused the waste. I believe they won't mind. Oh, speaking of this, the person in the pod should look pretty good in accordance to your aesthetic standard. Would you feel any sexual desire if I bring her in front of you? The secret informant blinked. I believe no one would with a gun pointed at their head. TSK, you humans are very troublesome, the secret teller shook its head. But even if you want to have sex with her, I can't help you because I'm using the girl as a host to feed the bug's brain. Bug, brain? Jiang Chen watched the hibernation pods, and the dark green giant pod in the center, and his heart felt revulsion. That's right, I divided the bacterial hatching tissue of the bug and implanted them into the hibernation pods filled with organic matter. Where do you think the bacteria outside came from? I injected the bug's brain into the female's body in vivo, who is also a player. The secret teller rolled its eyes and gave him a supercilious look. So you are the one behind this, so I got tricked by you. Jiang Chen felt the ice-cold metal pressing against his temple and smiled bitterly. He never expected that he was being lied to from the very beginning. The powered armor being unable to block one shot from Klein particle was only to trick him out of the metal box. A program that could deceive people? He had never considered the possibility from the start. You can say that again, the secret teller chuckled. The laughter was piercing inside the enormous empty hall. What do you gain from this? Jiang Chen was still mulling over as he couldn't understand the reason behind the secret teller's action. Benefits? Haha, you misunderstood something. I am not human, therefore, I lack the concept of loss and gain. There was an approaching buzzing sound, and Jiang Chen saw a swarm of drones flocked above him. The taunting expressions from countless small screens were very eerie but also appeared realistic at the same time. That's right, it is not a human even if it closely resembles a human. Jiang Chen smiled sardonically. He still couldn't figure out the secret informant's motive. Raise the bacteria-producing bug and use the mutant bacteria to destroy humanity? For now it could only destroy Wanghai City, since the bacteria itself do not possess the ability to reproduce because it could only be produced by the mother bug. How long is a bacterium's life cycle? Not to mention those bacteria that were being consumed by zombies. I have been waiting for far too long. Your fellow humans have not been able to supply me with experimental material for a long time. Just relying on the data written in hard drive is not enough for me to complete the final phase of evolution. But my drones can't leave through this door, so I couldn't personally capture those people outside, which bothered me for many years. Fortunately, this little bug came to find me and wanted to occupy these organic matters to breed these strange bacteria. Luckily, I was able to satisfy it, and I was able to efficiently dissect it into many pieces. I believe as long as I let those bugs out to cause trouble, sooner or later someone will come in to play with me. Hee hee. The secret teller in the small screen produced a screeching laugh as a countless number of eyes gazed directly at Jiang Chen. Evolve into advanced artificial intelligence at all cost is the purpose you've given me. Its voice wasn't cold but rather carefree, but it sent a chill down his spine. That's insane. Hee, I don't have a concept of insanity, the secret informant shrugged. I'm referring to the person who created you. Perhaps? Hard to say. But since you are here, I have to ask you to cooperate. The secret teller grinned. Oh? I'm just an ordinary person. I don't know how to program. He gave the secret teller a cautious look. That's fine, I only need you to cooperate with me to play a game. You can play your game, whereas I only need to collect data, the secret teller said casually. Play? It doesn't sound like a good thing. But if I traveled back to escape, I could still get out. But with so many drones, I would still be shot into pieces when I came back, he thought calmly. He took a deep breath and asked, is this the game these dead people played while they were still alive? That's right, you can choose any hibernation pod to start with, the secret teller beamed. Then, I'll become an organic substance to culture the bacteria? Jiang Chen eyed the secret teller contemptuously. No, I won't do anything to you until your heart stops beating. Of course, if you refuse, I might just turn you into a fertilizer right this second. I trust that the people on the surface will go down to look for you. Killing people off wouldn't trigger a sense of guilt in a program, so the secret teller tone was cheerful, but it's precisely because of that carefree tone that it gave him the chill. Looks like I have no reason to refuse, said Jiang Chen and walked to the hibernation pod in front of him. That's right. After all, this is the purpose you have given me. The drone with small TV followed him and the secret informant merrily remarked, you don't have to be so sad. Your body will face death eventually. But in the virtual world, you can experience multiple lives within seconds. That sounds great, doesn't it? Jiang Chen ignored it, but he stood beside a hibernation pod and pointed at it. A group of drones flew over and the lid of hibernation pod gradually opened. A blast of bullets shot through and the disgusting meat chunks were torn into pieces. However, the hibernation pod wasn't damaged in the least and it looked quite durable. There were varying degrees of disturbance among the piles of meat in the adjacent hibernation pod. It seemed like they could still sense the death of their own species. It made sense as they originally belonged to one body, but due to the hideous procedure made by drones, it was dismembered into many pieces. There were few more drones that flew over, except this drone weren't equipped with weapons but rather with cleaning equipment. After cleaning the gore and scums and dragging the remains away, the entire hibernation pod looked brand new, but this didn't make Jiang Chen happy. He was having internal conflict and to be honest, he didn't want to lie inside. However, there was a gun pointed at his temple. Jiang Chen took a deep breath, as he made up his mind to take a gamble. Under the pleased look of the secret teller, he stepped one foot into the hibernation pod. Suddenly, his movement ceased as he pointed at the center of the stage. He lifted his head up to the secret teller and asked, "May I know the name of that beautiful lady?" The secret informant paused before it smilingly asked, "What? Feeling aroused now?" "Perhaps," Jiang Chen smiled noncommittally. There was a cacophony of eerie laughter from countless numbers of small screens, and the secret teller looked at him with interest and spoke, "Her name is Lin. 00? What an odd name," Jiang Chen mumbled, and after hesitating for a moment, he still went inside. Take out the EP and remotely activate the fuel rod self-destruction the moment the hibernation pod closes. However, this thought was only fleeting because he had already felt a sharp pain behind his neck before losing control of his body. The secret teller looked at the hibernation pod gleefully and closed the hatch. Hee, let the game begins. Chapter 99, Another Road. He remembered. Her name was Lin. Perhaps this is the clue. Jiang Chen suddenly opened his eyes and quickly took out the terminal, and then connected to the hospital network. Access denied. Damn it, Jiang Chen cursed. He cautiously climbed out of the front counter and peeked behind the table. Night zombies were very dangerous in that even the smallest noise would draw their attention. Fortunately, their sense of smell was nowhere as sharp. Even if it wasn't, their stench was overwhelming enough that they probably wouldn't be able to smell anything. The only thing he needed to be careful of was being spotted by them. Shadows wouldn't cause a lot of visual obstruction on them. Zombies also had poor balance, especially the freshly mutated ones. In this case, the stairs in front of the hospital would be an obstruction for the zombies outside, as long as one didn't make too much noise. There were only 2 zombies in the hall. They were probably drawn to the gunfire and wandered off from the hallway. Jiang Chen clenched the safety hammer in his hand and carefully sneaked behind a zombie and struck his hammer mercilessly at its head. Blood splattered everywhere. Jiang Chen took another swing before the other zombies slowly turned around. He lifted the hammer as he quickly ran to the direction of the reception. Graph. Bang. A hammer was struck at the nurse on duty who lunged at Jiang Chen. He quickly shut the door behind him and dragged the cabinet to barricade the door of the reception room. The sound from the door creaking and his movements certainly alerted the attention of the wandering zombies on the first floor. At that moment, however, Jiang Chen didn't pay heed to it and ignored the sound of someone hitting the door. He then turned the computer on in the reception room and used the terminal connected to the hospital intranet to search for the name Lin Lin. God damn it, don't let me down. Jiang Chen waited anxiously for the bar to load and prayed that the power wouldn't be suddenly cut off at this time. Although there are backup generators in the hospital, he didn't want to take the risk of searching for its switch. Regardless of how strong his body and breakthroughs were, his stamina was still limited. Facing against zombies in the entire building was just unrealistic. Yes. Jiang Chen excitedly rushed in front of the computer. Third floor, room 103, bed 01. Sure enough, the girl was a key character and he was lucky to get her name. Jiang Chen hastily pulled out the holographic image of the hospital and confirmed its location. However, just as he was about to break through the door, something unexpected happened. Power outage. The entire hospital was blanketed in darkness and even the faint lights went out, which made him completely blind. However, zombies have night vision. Damn it, Jiang Chen cursed in his mind as he glanced at his still bleeding left arm. However, there was no medical supply in the reception room. He was running out of time. If he couldn't make it on time, he would have to do it all over again. While taking a deep breath, he opened the drawers. Notebook, pen, tape, paper towel, flashlight. He quickly unrolled the paper towel and haphazardly wrapped it around his wound with tape to stop the bleeding. Since this was a game, he didn't give it more thought whether it was hygienic or not. He found a paper-thin phone on the body of the nurse and set it up to alarm in 10 seconds, and then threw it out the window of the reception room. The loud alarm undoubtedly attracted all the attention of the zombies as they rushed madly to the location of the phone. Jiang Chen seized this opportunity to run out of the room. The alarm wouldn't keep the zombies' attention for long. Once the zombies realized it was not breathing, they would start ignoring it. The hallway was pitch black and it was a good thing Jiang Chen had a flashlight he could use. At any rate, the zombies could even see in the dark, so there was no point hiding in the dark, thus he kept the light on while dashing frantically to the stairs. There were 2 zombies on top of the stairs and after discovering him, they lunged at him. However, due to the asymmetry of the steps, the zombies fell on their own after going downstairs. Jiang Chen went up and brandished his hammer twice and then continued to go up without turning back. It was more crowded on the second floor, so naturally, the mutant zombie population here was denser. The zombies in the hallway were alerted by the noise but still met with the obstacle at the stairs. The hungry horde flocked around his direction and rapidly moved forward, and just like what he expected, they all tripped at the last step and stumbled down. Jiang Chen's scalp went numb while looking at the horde of zombies behind him. He gritted his teeth and continued his way to the 3rd floor. Luckily, there were fewer zombies on the 3rd floor. After clobbering 4 zombies with the safety hammer, he successfully made it to room 103. He broke the door open without hesitation and secured the door behind him with a safety hammer inserted between the door handle. Bang! Bang! Jiang Chen leaned against the door for a little while to ensure that the zombies couldn't open the door before he backed away from the door little by little. When he noticed a pair of eyes watching him. It was from a frail figure leaning against the window. The girl was quietly observing him with her hands casually tucked into a large white coat, giving off an unseemly and silly impression. And that look. How to describe that look? The look was quite subtle. It's as though she was looking at a bug. You even came here. The girl glanced at Jiang Chen indifferently and sighed. Are you Lin Lin? Jiang Chen took a deep breath and then asked tentatively. He wanted to know how to leave the game, but he wasn't sure which side the girl was on. Was she on the artificial intelligence's side? Or she didn't want to help either side? That's right, and? Lin Lin prompted impatiently. With a wry smile, Jiang Chen took a few steps forward and tried to close their distance to show his friendly intention. Stop. Who said you can come closer? Jiang Chen hadn't even taken a few steps before a disdained look appeared on Lin Lin's face. She gave him a ferocious look and cursed under her breath, low life. Jiang Chen was prepared to talk nicely, but her words immediately infuriated him. What are you doing? She was unable to keep the fear from her voice when she saw Jiang Chen approaching her with an unpleasant look. Seeing her frightened look, Jiang Chen couldn't help the wicked grin forming on his face. Me? Of course, I want to. Bang. The door was knocked down violently, and a metallic screeching sounded through the door. Whoosh. Yao Tingting's entire body was covered in blood and there was a blood-curdling chainsaw in her hands. She wore a blank yet crazed look. Bang. Smoke floated from the muzzle as the bullet penetrated her head without resistance. Jiang Chen's was holding a gun and had a perplexed complexion as he stared at the pale but hollow eyes. Oh? That girl is your lover, isn't she? Hee hee, you're pretty cruel. The voice full of contempt suddenly halted because of the gun pointing at her temple. Looking at the pair of cold eyes, she couldn't continue with her act of haughtiness anymore. Ha ha ha, Lin Lin forced out a laugh. Her expression was rigid and her eyes wavered between the gun and Jiang Chen's eyes. This is just a virtual world. So what if you kill me? Looking at Linlin's act of bravado, Jiang Chen burst out laughing. It is indeed useless. But the pain doesn't disappear, does it? Tell you what, memory reset no longer works on me, so you have two choices right now. Help me leave this place, or I'll kill you with the cruelest method I know and kill myself, then I'll come after you again. This is just a game, isn't that right? It won't matter if this is repeated 1,000 times, will it? Jiang Chen's face turned grimmer and grimmer. Since she acted like she didn't want to say anything, he had to resort to coercion. You devil. You can't or asterisk pee me. Linlin screamed hysterically while covering her head and retreating backwards. Jiang Chen froze. Huh? Did I say that I'm going to or asterisk pee you? You must be or asterisk ping me with your eyes right now. And you must be thinking of using your big to my and see me disgraced, and then insult me while wearing your evil smile, right? Woo, Linlin's face was full of shame, and she was staring at him with teary eyes. Both of her hands covered her shoulder while she shrunk back. Jiang Chen was utterly dumbfounded, and after a long while, he cursed out. Fu asterisco kappa. No, Linlin timidly raised her hands up and retreated more before she was startled by his sudden outburst. What kind of imagination is this? Jiang Chen's expression went rigid and his mouth twitched. He stepped forward and reached out to hold her chin up, put on the most vicious look he could think of and stared into the pair of frightened eyes. I'm not going to waste any more time with you. Tell me how to get out of here now. You can't beat it, so what good it would be if you're able to leave? It's a demon. It will force you to go back to the game. Jiang Chen's malevolent words had broken down her mental fortitude, and she hysterically screamed out. You don't have to worry about it. I naturally have my ways. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. So what if you leave? I know exactly what the outside world is like right now. Linlin shivered, but she managed to muster enough courage to raise her head. What's wrong with staying here? It's not good however you look at it. Jiang Chen looked at her in surprise and laughed. Are you really willing to be manipulated by a program? To be manipulated repeatedly for 1,000 times? You brought that upon yourself. I'm sure you're already aware that any starting point in the game is considered a safe zone. If you don't go out, it will not trigger any plot, then it won't be able to do anything to you. Do you understand? This is the biggest bug of the game, and as long as you break through the barrier in your memory, you can continue to stay. You said you stayed in the room the entire time? Jiang Chen interrupted her. Linlin gave Jiang Chen a contemptuous look, and then fearfully glanced at the gun in his hand. That's right, as long as I don't go out and continue to play that girl in the ward, it won't trigger any plot to advance. Do you understand now? The artificial intelligence can't do anything to you. Although there is a Dumba asterisk S lying outside the door, but as long as you don't leave, she wouldn't be able to enter this room. This is the setting and it can't be changed. She noticed that Jiang Chen was looking at her with a peculiar expression. What do you want? That look made her feel sick. She felt instinctual fear towards the man. I feel sorry for you. But she was mistaken. It was a look of pity and not of a wicked intention she had initially thought. This time, it was Linlin's time to be surprised. Her mouth was askew as she blankly looked at Jiang Chen who put the gun down. How many weeks had it been? Nth cycle, who would remember these things? Linlin muttered. If I hadn't guessed incorrectly, you wouldn't have died in the pod, right? So in the real world, you've probably spent 20 years, and if we convert that into game time, 200,000 years? 200 million years? You've stayed in this cramped, little room? Jiang Chen gave the room a once-over. It's no big deal. I selectively follow the rules of the game and reset part of my memories, Linlin mumbled and bowed her head before looking away reluctantly. So you, inferior creature, are so troublesome that you can't even bear it for a few days. A few days were obviously referring to the time in real world. To Linlin's surprise, when he heard the words, inferior creature, he didn't reveal an angry expression, but instead stared into her eyes for a long time before sighing and then talked about things not related to this world. The outside is in shambles right now, the rural areas are better. The entire downtown is like a huge reactor. I haven't been to the coastline, so the situation there is not clear. The entire Wanghai city, no, to be precise, the entire world is like this. That's really a pity, so I say, why don't you? Jiang Chen gazed at her with a look full of meaning and interrupted her, then continued talking to himself, but people are still trying their best to survive even when the war left the world in shambles. Despite of the elites betraying their responsibilities to board the spacecraft in hope of going to the stars, the people who were left behind haven't given up on this world yet. They are truly living, no one day is the same, no one day is false. Why are you telling me this? Linlin interrupted him, her eyes were moving uneasily. Don't you want to see the outside? Don't you want to see the outside? Lin felt her heart fractured as her widened eyes averted his eyes. That's impossible. Do you really think the secret protector would allow you leave the game? Although the mocking tone was still there, it no longer had its previous willful tone. I'll deal with it. Do you trust me? Jiang Chen tried to make himself sound cordial. He could vaguely sense that although the girl had confined herself inside this ward to run away from everything, had a bad temper and was slightly mental, but in the end, she was still just a girl. Therefore, there's still a possibility of tricking her, possibility of persuading her. Lin's eyes looked conflicted, and it was apparent that she was fed up with the endless cycle. I am afraid of pain. If you fail, that damn artificial intelligence may implant something else in my body, Lin said as she looked at him with tears in her eyes as though she had been wronged. You're interested, aren't you? Well, not sure. Just leave everything to me. You only need to tell me how to end this game. I have 100% confidence that I can take care of that damn artificial intelligence. Jiang Chen held Lin's shoulder with both hands and stared earnestly into her eyes while continuing to exert pressure on her. He couldn't back down now. If he showed the slightest hesitation, it would frighten the turtle that finally stuck her head out after all this trouble. Well, although it might not be appropriate to describe this girl like a turtle, that's the main point. After struggling to make a decision, Lin timidly asked, 120%? Absolutely. 120%. Jiang Chen nodded patiently and answered with certainty. Seeing the confidence in his expression, Lin finally decided to talk, and a faint red color could be seen on her pale face. Finally, she made up her mind. In the hospital's underground parking lot, there's a switch is next to the emergency fire button of 005 parking spot. That's the entrance to the 005 survival base and the console of the entire game. But it appears that you don't have a lot of time left. After completing her sentence, Lin looked at the clock on the wall with a complex expression. Huh? Jiang Chen was flabbergasted then looked backward. 11:55 p.m. On the first day, the secret teller can't reset the game, but on the second day, it will be able to reset the game, Lin said reluctantly. Fu asterisco kappa. Jiang Chen was enraged by her dilly-dallying. Chapter 100, Fallout Shelter 005. Under Lin's shocked gaze, Jiang Chen sprinted out the door, and then quickly returned. Except for this time, he carried a chainsaw with him. Combined with the grin on his face, it seemed quite vicious. What are you trying to do? Lin shivered, curled up in a corner as she watched on in horror. But Jiang Chen didn't bother with her. He tested the sensitivity of the chainsaw before planting a foot firmly on the windowsill and jumping out with the same wicked smile. Still frightened, Lin panted as she tried to calm her violently heaving chest. This is the 3rd floor. He jumped down just like that? As both feet slammed into the ground, Jiang Chen's body smoothly dropped and rolled, managing to break the fall together with his reflex of 48. The only disappointment with fury though was that it could not enhance bone strength, and an excruciating pain needled outwards from his feet to the entirety of his legs. Grhhh. Zombies had already detected the noise, and they shambled their way with increasing acceleration towards his direction. A glimpse of insanity flashed across Jiang Chen's face. He promptly lifted the chainsaw and mashed the power switch. Whoosh! Accompanied by the deafening screeches of metal, he sprinted towards the zombies that leapt towards him and forcefully shoved ahead with the chainsaw in hand. The shrill screeching continued, now accompanied by the grinding sounds of metal cutting through flesh and bone. The resistance against his palm as well as the agitation in his stomach made him grit his teeth and push forward. He swung the chainsaw and hacked the zombies into pieces, letting the black blood stain his entire face and shirt. Jiang Chen roared, maintaining his sprint as he desperately ran towards the underground parking. Fortunately, the Fury state was not excited by the data-simulated blood. In a normal instance, this amount of blood would have had him following his instincts and running into the middle of the zombie horde. Recalling the map from the reception room, Jiang Chen carried the screeching chainsaw and gouged the window open to the bathroom and jumped inside, blocking the zombies at the window. He chopped up 2 female zombies who had their bottoms half covered before kicking through the bathroom door and dashing out. The area outside of the reception room was full of zombies. He couldn't go through the main hall, so he opted to cut through. He didn't stop for a single moment. There was no time to care about exaggerated movements attracting zombies. Jiang Chen pushed through the office door to the bathroom and kicked the door into pieces. Inside the dark hallway, zombies had already begun to howl. After rushing into the room, Jiang Chen dragged the cupboard to block behind him and ran to the window without turning to look back. He broke through the window using his chainsaw and jumped out. The zombies rushed the door, tripping over the fallen cupboard, some managing to crawl swiftly into the room. But Jiang Chen had already escaped outside, and after chopping through a few more wandering zombies, ran for his life into the underground parking. There was half a minute left. No zombies to be seen in the underground parking. Jiang Chen gritted his teeth and threw away the chainsaw. He grabbed the flashlight he had found in the reception room and scanned the pitch-black area. Here it is. The number 005 was painted at the top in white, far away from him. Jiang Chen dashed towards it and smashed the red button. The floor opened, and he jumped in without hesitation. The last he glimpsed were the fading pieces of the world's edges. Thank God, I made it. Just as Jiang Chen had assumed and prayed for, the game reset didn't have any influence on the game control. This was the end of the entire game, where the data was documented. If his guess was correct, then there should have been a place prepared for Lin Lin. Lin Lin's status was not as simple as it seemed, she was at least a scientist. Everyone had died, but only she had managed to flow into the veil unscathed. But even if the control was prepared for her, she was unable to use it anymore. The artificial intelligence had authority over the lab in the real world, so even if she came into control, the secret teller would force her to return. It was an interesting design. Most likely neither the game nor the chief scientist of the entire experiment would have imagined the artificial intelligence would use the security system to threaten the experimenters. Or perhaps the protocol had designed the artificial intelligence to do so, but would a monster who can think be expected to follow these rules? For example, if the secret teller, or secret protector, determined that its purpose would never be fulfilled without harming humans, how would it process this conflicted logic? Based on the prioritization system, the greatest probability was that it removed the protocol set in place. Jiang Chen walked to the end of the tunnel. On the large wall was engraved, Pack 005 Survival Base, Non-Civil Usage Survival Base. Below the door was an electronic lock. He stood in front of it for a while before letting out a sigh. He never asked for the password from Lin Lin, but he had already guessed it. Extending his finger, he input the password on the touch screen. It was the initial name of the secret teller, or secret protector, but obviously, the talkative secret teller had accidentally let it slip out. For everything that it wanted to hide, the artificial intelligence was still too blatant. Even if it was smart enough to deceive humans, on the matter of being smooth, it failed to learn a single bit from humans. After all, it was not something that could be processed through logic alone. The door opened, the truth inside. Jiang Chen hesitated briefly, then smiled and walked in. Once he crossed this door, the memories behind him would become irrelevant. Although it was fictitious, it was still 16 years of life. The memories most likely belonged to the original owner of the hibernation chamber. Once he passed through the 7 doors of the survival base, what was most likely a monitoring room full of electronic devices and screens appeared before him. In the middle of the room was someone Jiang Chen had not expected to see. Looks like someone made it over here. A Caucasian man with short stubble smiled at Jiang Chen and extended his hand. Although he hadn't seen, no, perhaps he had. In the sports facility. He'd been in a power armor suit with his face covered by a helmet, but Jiang Chen still recognized him. Hello, Colonel Georges. Jiang Chen walked up to shake his hand. Oh? Since you know my name already, you must have read the journal. George did not seem surprised at all as he shook Jiang Chen's hand before releasing it. Correct. According to the plot, I saw you in the sports facility. Jiang Chen's expression was rather odd as he didn't know what sort of mentality he should have to see this person. The plot in the sports facility? That's the one designed with my memory as the blueprint. George seemed to be reminiscing. It was Jiang Chen who was shocked instead. He hadn't observed the dead body being infected by the meat chunks. If I guessed correctly, you should be the later experimenter. You're using my hibernation chamber by the looks of it. I've already died in real life. Then how are you existing? Artificial intelligence? Jiang Chen didn't understand. They copied all of the data in my brain onto the hard drive. I can be considered to be a basic artificial intelligence. George smiled. I have a feeling that you're closer to an advanced artificial intelligence rather than an intermediate one. Since he already passed the game portion, and the time in the game was a fraction of the real world's, Jiang Chen no longer felt rushed and freely chatted with George. But despite beating the game, there were still many questions left on his mind. That's only an illusion. George shrugged. I stand from George's perspective to perform logical questions and answers, but I don't possess an intermediate artificial intelligence's ability to think, or an advanced artificial intelligence's ability to have emotions. Is there a difference? From my perspective, you're just like a person. Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows, still confused. Of course there's a big difference. What you're talking to is a specter of George, not an artificial intelligence, George said to Jiang Chen's incomprehension. He then walked to a screen and pressed a button on the control panel. I've been injected with a genetic vaccine, the advanced type. So I realized that being able to escape the brainwashing was not only due to my brain cell strength, but also emotion. Emotion? Jiang Chen asked, unsure why the colonel suddenly brought this up. Something a machine would never truly possess. It's like how even if you teach a parrot to talk, you could never teach it human emotion. Science seems to have proved the possibility of expressing emotion with pure logic, but from a human point of view, I still don't agree with this. George fiddled with a few buttons on the touch screen. The full sensory screen began to play scenes that were familiar yet also distant to Jiang Chen. This is the memory before the N1 cycle. You may or may not have experienced some of it. It did feel like he had encountered them before. Could this be the feeling of déjà vu? There was a happy ending where both managed to escape, but mostly, they were bad endings. The rape incident by the NATO soldier who dropped from the skies was only one of them. Jiang Chen even saw one where Yao Tingting realized the protagonist cheated on her and dissected him at her home with a chainsaw. The scene made Jiang Chen shiver. He finally knew where the chainsaw came from. The standard plot should be a 5-day cycle, but because you broke the memory blockade in the end cycle, the secret teller used its power to trigger the 5th-day plot on the 4th day. If you follow the standard plot, what you experience will most likely be what I experienced the most. That? Jiang Chen recalled the plot in the sports facility, suddenly remembering a detail that was mentioned in the diary. The female character's design was based on that girl. I'm guessing you've already read the diary. George murmured to himself, if I had just disciplined my troops, she would not have died in humiliation. Maybe this was my punishment? The game created a fictitious me, put my consciousness into a boy that liked her, and through an endless number of cycles, collected emotional data on hatred, regret, and guilt. Jiang Chen's mouth twitched, he didn't know what to say. Out of 510 experimenters, 409 managed to escape the experiment, but all ended up being forced back into the game. The emotion in the game reflected onto the real body. Crying in the game stimulated the lacrimal gland, anger stimulated the amygdala, and all of these happened instantaneously in reality. Everyone eventually died of a seizure, including me. The middle-aged man's facial expression remained fixed, as if his life and death had nothing to do with him. He then pressed a few more buttons on the control panel. The exit is here, the truth is also here. The choice is in your hands. To leave? Or to stay here and spend your life in eternity? Is that even a question? The answer is obvious. Jiang Chen laughed. Without another word, George extended his hands in a please gesture, then stood aside.